a recorder now, and it is not a bad idea to remind me to check, because sometimes I forget to change the mic setting, so we'll be recording from the internal mic, which is not connected to anything, the internal audio setting, which is not connected to a mic. So you'll be watching a silent movie, which is not going to be, well, it's helpful, but it's not going to be as helpful as with my voice. Okay, so it might be helpful to double check and just let me know. Okay, did you check your recording setting? And now it is, this is all good because it's saying it's recording, and you can see the bar moving around, so it's actually recording. Let me start the browser. All right, several things that are important. I will write it down on the whiteboard. The first thing is I do not use D2L. I use Moodle, M-O-O-D-L-E. So M-O-O-D-L-E is Moodle. So instead of d2l.losreals.edu, just use moodle.losreals.edu. Change D2L to Moodle. Okay. It's just another LMS or another learning management system. It's not going to be much easier or much harder to use. Okay. All right. Next thing I will do is I am going to pretend to be a student, and I'm on the wait list. So I have no access to the class just yet. But I will show you what you will see and how to get access to the content of this class. But I have to set up one more thing first. Just give me 1 second here. I cannot give permission numbers today because I have to talk to the dean to find out what he wants to do, because I'm pretty sure I don't have enough room for all the people who want to add to this class. So I have to check with the dean first to see what he wants to do. And that depends on what type of semester we are in. Sometimes they want to add everybody to the class. Other times they don't want to add anyone to the class. Okay, so self-enrollment. And I'm going to use the enrollment key of Turing. Assign student row as manually add student. Save changes. All right. So getting back to my pretend account here. So I'm going to moodle moodle.losreals.edu. And if you don't put in the HTTPS first, it will give you this message, to basically say that you're being redirected. Once you get to the website, you have the username and the password. The username is W followed by your 7-digit student ID, just like with D2L. The password is your district password, which is the same thing that you use to sign into D2L or apps.losreals.edu. Are there any questions regarding your username or your password? Okay. So I'm going to sign in, as an employee, it's basically the same thing. So I'm going to pretend that I'm a student, and I am currently not enrolled in this class. I could not get onto the wait list. I'm not enrolled, so it does not display as one of the courses under my courses here. Okay. How many people are adding to this class? You're not enrolled yet. Okay, so all of you will basically see exactly what I'm seeing here. That's okay, not a big deal. For those of you who are currently enrolled, you would see cisp300 under the list of my courses. So if you're not currently enrolled, you go to all courses, go to CISP, go to CISP300 and click it. And once you click it, it will ask you for an enrollment key. Do you guys remember what I specified as the enrollment key earlier?
Turing.
Turing, T-U-R-I-N-G, lowercase, one word, okay? And what is so special about Turing? What is that?
Alan Turing.
Alan Turing, and who is Alan Turing?
He broke the Enigma code in World War II. He created the first computer.
He created the first electronic computer. There were mechanical computers before that. And he broke the Enigma code. And he is considered the father of computer science. Okay, modern computer science is basically Alan Turing. It's all his theory and stuff. So that's why he is really significant. And which movie talked about him?
The Imitation Game.
The Imitation Game. And why is it called The Imitation Game? What does that have anything to do with Turing? Yep.
The imitation game is essentially you would put a computer up against the person, and the person would ask the computer certain questions.
Yep.
Depending on the answer, you determine if it's a computer or a person that you're talking to.
Yep. That's also called the Turing Test. Okay. So Turing Test is a test to see if a computer is quote unquote intelligent, whether AI is successful or not. Is basically to have a computer on one end, and then you can interact with the computer through a terminal, and if the person cannot differentiate whether he's talking to a computer or not, then the computer is considered intelligent because it can imitate a person well enough that a person cannot tell the difference. Okay. All right. So this is this is algorithm design and problem solving, which is kind of a long title for this class. It's basically a pre-programming class. I call it a pre-programming class because we do not actually write any program in C or C++ or anything that will run. The entire objective of this class is to talk about the concepts of programming constructs, so that when you move on to the next class, which is cisp300, then you know the concepts already, and the only thing left for you to do in that class is to get the syntax, the tools, to get the programs to work. All right, so once you sign in, go to the class, you will see all of these topics here. The first thing you want to do is interactive syllabus, because I want to make sure that you guys know the expectations and stuff like that. So I will go ahead and attempt to quiz myself. And it is called a quiz, but it's not really a quiz. Okay, once you see the questions, you will see that it's not really a quiz. The first section talks about the section itself. I am only teaching one section this semester for cisp300, so that's why this is the only one. There's not much to say about this except for the final exam. The final exam is on the 16th of May from 12:45 to 2:45. So you might want to put this on your calendar just to make sure that you have those 2 hours blocked off for the final exam. The learning objectives, which is this part here, is mandatory. We have to put it onto the syllabus because we want to let you know what you should be able to do after you pass this class. Okay, so those are the things that you should be able to do after you pass this class. There's not a whole lot of point to go through this at this point because that's what I'm going to teach. So for the most part, it's not something that you should know already at this point. This is the question. Select one. Okay, is this the right class, or do you want to be dropped from this class? Okay, I think since I don't see anyone, standing up and walking out of the door, I'm assuming all of you are in the right class. So you have to make sure that you select the correct option, because otherwise I'm going to drop people. The next section talks about me, okay, the instructor. Since I don't have the necessary fonts installed, they do not display correctly. Those are supposed to be Chinese characters. My email address is drtech2016spring@gmail.com. So go ahead and use that email. The school email will still work, okay, but I prefer my Gmail because I can do a lot more organization online with my Gmail. Thank you. Okay, so has everybody initialed on the roll sheet? Because sometimes, like it can miss an entire section of people. Okay, so it didn't happen this time. Very good. My office hours are Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 8 to 9. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, it is in the afternoon from 4:30 to 5:30. If you need to talk to me and you cannot make it to these times, let me know and then we can arrange for a time. Okay. Today is a Wednesday. So on Mondays and Wednesdays, I can have a little bit of time after class too. So if you want to meet with me, we can do that. But it's helpful to let me know ahead of time so that I know that I would stay behind a little bit after class. Okay, so select this. I know how to contact my instructor. Presentation/delivery methods. For this class, there's really not much to say because this is a face-to-face class. I don't really have to say much about that. Okay. So there's a lot of reading material. There'll be some interactive activities, but for the most part, it's a face-to-face lecture. So select one. Regular effective contact, regular substantive interaction. This is here because of online classes and hybrid classes. How many people have taken an online class? Okay, a few. How many have taken an online class where you did not get any type of interaction whatsoever from the instructor? Well, there you go. This section is here to make sure that instructors, initiate communication with their students in an online class and respond to questions in an online class. It is difficult for me not to do this because what am I doing right now? Talking to you guys, right? Okay. And have I asked questions up to this point?
You just did.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. So it's difficult for me not to have regular effective contact. I would have to lecture like this for 80 minutes every single class and ignore all of your questions in order to qualify as not having regular effective contact. Because even eye contact is some kind of contact. So I have to turn this way and completely just yakking, talk to the whiteboard to qualify as not having regular effective contact. So this section is really just for online classes, and this is not an online class. It doesn't mean that this is not useful, because it does point out how you can talk to me, okay? Outside of the class, you can go to my office hours. My office hours are usually underutilized, okay, which means there's no line. We don't have any lab time, so that does not apply. I don't have any online office hours. If you guys want, I can have forums on Moodle. So this way we can interact online as well, okay? So we can do that. Messaging is already enabled on Moodle, so if you want to message me through Moodle, it will work. Okay. Email, the usual way to communicate, is fine. Calling me at the office is fine too. It will just leave a message through email, so I can listen to your message through my email account. Time frame policy, which basically means no more than 24 hours. I can respond within a day, basically, except for weekends, 2 days. Etiquette policy applies to mostly written communication. I don't really see a lot of problems most of the time with face-to-face interaction. So I don't know why, but it seems like when people are communicating online only through text, there are more issues. When they're communicating face-to-face, there are not as many issues. Yes, first day of class or orientation, you guys are fine because you're physically here and you signed your name, initial your name on the roll sheet. So for people who think that they don't need to go to the first class and just watch the video, after it is uploaded, those people will be dropped.
You're failing your test, though. You're failing your test. Both questions you selected, I do not understand and do not accept.
Oh, I got the wrong one. Oh, that would not be good. Oh, I randomized all these questions. I forgot about that.
Make sure we're paying attention.
I did not pay attention to my own quiz. It happens. Because with some of my classes, I have not randomized the answers yet. So with this one, apparently I have. Okay, accommodations. If you need special accommodations, like more time during a quiz, or a desk, or a quiet place to take the test, or stuff like that, it can be arranged. But I cannot do a single thing until I get a piece of paper from the DSPS office. Okay, so for people who need accommodations, you already know how to do this. Go to the DSPS center and get them to sign off a piece of paper. Excessive absence, this is a big deal, okay, especially for classes like this one, because this is kind of, most people are just starting out, with classes at a community college with this class. 6% is considered excessive. Okay, 6% of unexcused absences is considered excessive. What does that mean? Well, let's work out the math here. I'm skipping around a little bit here. This is a 54-hour full semester class. That's why it's a 3-unit class. With a three-unit class, we are meeting 80 minutes per class, okay, because it goes from noon to 1:20, so that makes 80 minutes. So if you think about it, this is 54 times 60, 54 hours, and each class is 80 minutes. So what we are computing here is the percentage of the entire semester per lecture hour that we actually see face-to-face. So each lecture hour is basically 2.47% of the entire semester. 6%, missing 6% or more of these lecture hours is considered excessive. So the first unexcused absence is not a problem. The second unexcused absence, which will add up to about 5%, is not a problem. The third one is a problem because the third one will add up to about 7.5%, which is more than 6%. So the bottom line is everybody in this class is, I should not use the word, entitled to 2 unexcused absences, but not more than that. Is that okay? But that is just unexcused. There are absences that are excused. So like this. Absences that are excused is due to sickness. Now, I cannot just say, well, I don't feel well that day, and that is not good enough. Okay, I need to have a doctor's note or a nurse's note to basically say this person should not go to school on that day. Contagious, is really not well. It's just not suitable to go to school. Okay, if you do not have access to a doctor, there is the health center on campus. The nurse in the health center can sign off that paperwork for you as well. Okay. If you're in the military and you have training that you have to go to, sometimes they have like a whole week of things to do. That is excused. If you have jury duty, that is also excused. Okay, because all of these things, you're doing it not for yourself, but for the country. Now, having said that there are excusable excuses, what if someone is like sick 3 times and all 3 times that person has a doctor's note, has military duty for about 2 weeks, missing 4 classes, and then is on the jury of a massively massively sensational murder case, and that went on for a month, which will miss about 8 classes. So they're all excused, right? Okay, I'm not going to drop that person because of excessive unexcused absences. But what do you think that person really should do, given all of these absences?
Drop the class.
Maybe drop the class and continue, try again. Exactly, but why?
Because they won't have participation points and they'll miss out on class assignments.
Yeah, even if they pass the class, they won't be able to get everything that they should be getting in class. Okay, so whether it is excused or not, too many absences is not good for taking a class. I just want to point it out. There's no real late policy because I do not accept anything that is late. So you really have to pay attention to the due dates of your homework assignments. And when we do have midterms, you have to make sure that you remember to take the exams, okay? Because I do not make up for exams. Someone comes in, well, actually, this has happened in the past. People come in, like the following class, and tell me that, well, my alarm clock did not work last Thursday. Can I make up for my exam? And the answer is, I'm sorry, but no, the answer is no. I cannot make up for exams due to those reasons. So, do we get to keep this class, or is this class canceled?
You're 50 plus. I think it's over 50. It's 51.
So you're going to call the fire marshal?
Well, I'll tell you what. I have 51 in another classroom that's not this big. I open the door, I look in, and I realize it's wall to wall. I put down 50 plus and leave. Thanks, Tack.
Thank you, Jeannie. All right. right, so that's the late policy. Okay, this part is also very, very important. It's about, well, you can look at it either way. Okay, you can look at it as cheating or dishonesty, or you can look at it on the positive side, which is integrity. So I'm going to try to look at it from the positive side. So from the positive perspective, integrity means, in this class, it means the grade of a particular assessment. Okay, what is an assessment? Homework assignment is assessment. Midterm is assessment. Final exam is assessment. Okay? So the grade of a particular assessment of a particular student. Which student? The student who turns in the assessment. The student who puts the name on the assessment. That student. The grade should reflect the academic performance of that particular student and only of that particular student. Okay? Not of anybody else. Just that student. At the time of the assessment, not after and not before. And that's the assessment or the process has to follow all the rules that are either explicitly written or it is implied by the syllabus itself. And sometimes I would give you flexibility to use resources. And I can tell you already, in the class like this, the midterms are open book and open notes. Okay? Because I don't want to test you on memorization. For one simple reason, I don't do it. I cannot do it. I cannot memorize anything. Give me a phone number, and then ask me again in 5 seconds. I would have forgotten. Okay? So things that I do not understand, I usually cannot remember. And I don't expect you guys to be able to do that either. It's because of the occupation. Okay? Many of you are here because you want to get through the computer science transfer degree. How many people are after the computer science transfer degree? Okay, so that would be kind of like half the class. The rest of the class, how many people are in a math major? Okay. Some kind of engineering major? Science major of some kind? Okay, so that makes up the majority of this class. And with every single field that I have just mentioned, in a job, you can usually look up in a book, on the internet, if you cannot remember something. Is that right? Okay? So it's not reasonable for me, I think it's not reasonable for me to have you guys to memorize things that is they can easily look at. Okay? Now, if this class is about surgery and I'm training you guys to be surgeons, then it'll be a whole different story. Because I don't want my surgeon to ask the nurse for an iPad to look up where a particular artery is during surgery with bloody fingers and all that with gloves. Okay? So if this is a class about surgery, then no, I want you guys to memorize everything that is to know about the human body. Okay? But this is not one of those classes. My father has always wanted me to become a doctor, a medical doctor of some kind. And the only kind of doctor that I think that I'm suitable as is an examiner, where there's no urgency. Well, not as much. Okay? And of course the tools will be slightly different as well. Hacksaw. Okay. So there we go. I understand. There we go. Moving on. Student rights and responsibilities, that's really general stuff. I'm not going to talk about it. But you should read this because in case you are wrongfully accused for something, and the instructor is not fair to you, what do you do? Who do you complain to? What is the process? Okay, where on campus do you find resources for that? This document will tell you that. Okay, so it's kind of useful. Next, classroom behavior expectation. So what I'm going to do is I'll just kind of focus on certain things that happens a lot. The first thing is chatting. Okay, this happens a lot. This is the majority of disruption in a class is due to chatting during the class. And I have to say, most chatting is not malicious in terms of intent. People do not intend to disrupt the class. It's just that I talk about something and somebody said, okay, I'm not quite getting what he just said. And instead of raising their hand and asking me to slow down, stop, and re-explain something, that person says, okay, let's not bother tech, I'll ask my buddy next to me. Okay? Why is that bad? Yep.
Because other people might benefit from your question.
Exactly. Well, that's definitely one of the reasons. And even, yep, go ahead.
Your buddy might be a dullard.
That too, but your buddy may want to pay attention to what I'm talking at that point. Because when your buddy is responding to you, your buddy is not listening to me, along with everybody around that person, right? So until we have cones of silence that can limit, all the sounds to a very local, region, that's not, chat in class, okay? Because, it's a broadcast. Everybody around the person who's chatting can get disrupted, can get distracted. Okay, interrupting, when I'm talking about something, and you have a burning desire to share your opinion or to ask a question, just hold it off, raise your hand and hold off your question or opinion until I address you. Okay, and I promise you, I don't ignore people in my classes. Okay, if you have a point to make, if you have a question to ask, you raise your hand, I will give you time. It's just that sometimes I want to finish my sentence first, or finish my train of thought. Sometimes it's like 2 or 3 sentences because I have to finish that concept. Then I can go back to you and ask, okay, do you want to share with me something? Do you want to share with the class? Okay? So it's no big deal to raise your hand. It's just that I cannot let people talk about stuff when they want to talk about stuff, because I don't want to be interrupted, when I'm in the middle of a sentence. Mobile devices, make sure they do not ring, during class, okay, because that is also kind of disruptive. No drinking or eating in the classroom. In this one, I can let you guys have a plain drinking water. So if you have if you have a water bottle and just have drinking water like that, that's perfectly okay. Okay, I can understand that sometimes you want to sip, that's okay. Please come to class on time, okay, because when you are late and you come in, that can be a little bit disruptive, okay, because when you kind of walk to the classroom or close the door, that's a little bit distracting. There is a class prior to this one, okay, so let people out of the classroom first before you come in. Why is that a good idea? Well, until those people get out of the classroom, you won't have a place to sit down. Well, not easily access it, right? So you might as well just let the previous class go out first, and then we'll come in. Just general etiquette of classroom stuff. Questions are welcome as long as they are related or remotely related to this class and asked in an orderly fashion. So I don't mind questions. I don't mind people expressing their opinion if it is related to this class. Okay, algorithms, problem solving, math in general, that's good. Any questions? Yep.
I couldn't figure out, is there a textbook for this class?
No, there is no textbook for this class. All the reading material is online in Google. So that's why even for people who are on the wait list, not even enrolled at this point, I want them to have access to the website because all the material is on the website.
Okay.
Would you guys rather pay for a textbook?
Nope. No.
No, okay. I was just thinking that if I'm not paying for a textbook, there's something wrong. Okay, how to attend the lectures? I don't really need to tell you this because most of you have taken classes before. There's only one difference about this class. It's because I am screen recording. Okay, so everything that I do on the projector is recorded. So don't frantically try to copy everything that I do that you can see on the projector because it is all going to be recorded. Okay, so focus on what I say, the concepts, and focus on understanding the concepts in class instead of trying to frantically write down everything. Okay? Now, one thing that you might want to write down is every time I start on a major topic, you might want to write down the time. Just look at the clock and write down the time when I talk about that. Because if it is screen recorded and you write down the time, guess what? If you already write down the time of, 30 past noon, then next time when you want to review it, you want to go back to the video and say, okay, what did text say about blah blah blah. Now you have an index to fast forward to exactly that point in the video clip. You don't have to search through the entire clip. Okay, so maintaining your own index into the video can be very helpful. Some past students have told me that is actually useful. Yep.
Where were the videos available?
Ah, very good. Okay, when and where? Okay, those are good questions. The where part is, it is on YouTube. Okay, so there's no password, that you need. The channel name is SomProfs, SomEPROFS. I'm just going to write it on the whiteboard. So just go to regular youtube.com/SomProfs. That's it. Okay, so I'll show you what you will see once you get there. So once you get there, you will see something like this. I don't really even customize my channel. You go to the videos tab. That's the quickest way to find the video recording. And then the videos are all listed like what you're seeing now. We'll have the date of the recording and as well as the class that recording is related to. Because I teach multiple classes and there are other professors using this website. But for this class, it's cisp300. And only one person using this website teaches cisp300, and that person is me. Okay, so that's how you can find the recording of this class. It's just on YouTube. Time frame wise, it's within about a day or so. Okay, because I don't have any time to upload it right after this class. I have to go home first and then upload it. So give me about maybe a few hours to upload the lecture recording. So is that answering the question? Good. So get back to the syllabus.
I have a quick question. How long
Yep.
do you leave them up there?
Forever. Until YouTube comes back to me and say, Tag, you have been consuming terabytes and terabytes of hard drive space and we cannot afford this anymore. If you guys want to find out, I don't know exactly how many videos I have uploaded already. I lost track. Okay, where does it show? Does anyone know where it shows the? Yep.
If you go back to where you were, date added, newest oldest.
Date.
Yeah. Just click on that. Yeah.
Well, that tells you the time frame. It doesn't tell me how many recordings I have. I think it's in 1,000 something now. I cannot remember. It's just every single class that I teach face to face, I record and upload. So you can find
2 years.
recordings, 6 years or so, 5 years since 2010, right? But the number of recording, I think it's somewhere. I just cannot remember where I can find that. In the sign in, playlists, channels. No, that's really just
Google it.
okay. Yeah, it's 78,000 view and something, but that's over 6 years. Okay, so it's not really that much. Okay, how to attend lectures? Getting back to this topic. So go ahead and just make your own time index of my video. It's going to be helpful. How to succeed in this class? This is a really long section. I am not going to read it to you, but I can emphasize what is important. I already told you guys I do not really care that much about memorization. Okay. So what am I going to be focusing on if it's not memorization? Concepts. But in terms of concepts, there are two things that you can do with concepts. When you're in class, you're trying to understand the concepts. When I'm testing, I cannot read your mind. I cannot tell whether you understand the concept or not, right? So the test will be about your application of the concepts. Okay, I'll give you some problems to solve, and you will have to apply the concepts that you learn in class to solve those problems. Okay? I'll give you an example, okay? Okay, let me finish this part first. So what I teach you are concepts, which are individual concepts. Concept A, concept B, concept C, and so on. And when I teach the concepts, I'll give you like simple examples to illustrate the concepts. But when I test, I'll give you a problem to solve, and in order to solve those problems, you will need not one, but multiple of the concepts that you have learned in class. And you will have to figure out how to combine the concepts that you have learned in order to solve a problem. I'll give you one example. So let's say this is a really hands-on class and I teach you actual tools that you can buy from PowerPoint. Okay? So in one class, I might introduce the concept of a vice grip. What is a vice grip? Sorry? It's kind of a kind of plier, but it's not just a plier, because with a plier, you have to really hold on to it tight in order to secure the grip. So a vice grip has a little set screw, and when you click it, it will stay. The grip will stay. In order, so you don't have to hold on to it really tight the whole time. So in one class, I might teach you how to use a vice grip, and just say that, oh, this is a really convenient way to hold on to something because you don't have to exert a lot of force the entire time. In another class, I might teach you, a Dremel. Okay, so here's a Dremel tool. These are the various bits that you can install onto a Dremel, and this is how you use a Dremel tool. Okay, your exam question may be, oh, this is a chunk of ice, and I want you to do some sculpting on the ice. How do you do it? Oh, I'm gonna hold on to the ice with my hand and Dremel it. Oh, it's way too cold and my hand is numb. What do? You use a vice grip to hold on to it, and then you use the tool, to work on it, right? But Tech, you never said anything about using a vice grip on ice or anything that is cold. Okay? When you demonstrated, you only use a Dremel on a piece of wood. You never said anything about using a Dremel on ice either. But that's what I'm going to ask. Okay? So the context of the explanation of the individual concepts is not going to be the same as the context of the exam. So you will have to adapt and apply the concepts. Is that okay? Because that's problem solving. Okay. Why is problem solving important again?
So you know you understand it.
Because every single one of you is going into a field that is collectively called what? STEM. S-T-E-M. Science, technology, engineering, math. And every single one of those require what type of skill? Problem solving. And what is in the title of this class? Problem solving. Okay? There will be a lot of fun stuff to do today. Okay, so I will talk about those when we get to it. Grading standard. This is really fun too. I'm gonna skip all the way to the end first, and then I'll go back and explain a little bit of that. The boundaries. Okay, if you look at all the available points and look at how many points you have accumulated at the end of the semester, this is how I assign letter grades. Okay, 12.5% is the starting point of the D. 37.5% is the starting point of the C, 62.5% is the starting point of the B, and 87.5% is the starting point of an A. Is that conventional? No? Does that make this class easy? Because most classes start a D at 60%. Okay? Well, the way this works is based on grade points. Okay? Okay, so if you look at all the grade points, you have A, B, C, D, F, right? What is the grade point of an F? It's a 0. The grade point of an A, 4.0. Grade point of a B, 3.0, 2.0, 1.0. Do you see the correlation between these numbers and the percentages? Somewhere between here and here, in terms of ratio of the 4.0, that's where I draw the boundary between an F and a D. This is where I draw the boundary between a D and a C. between a C and a B, and between a B and an A. This is possible because I don't ask multiple choice questions. There's no filler to the exams. Okay? Every single question is a problem-solving question, and I grade every single question using the scale of A, B, C, D, F. In other words, I evaluate your answer to each question and say that, does this answer deserve an A, a B, a C, a D, or an F? Well, if I grade every single question this way, I can use exactly the same scale to assign your final letter grade. Does that make sense? But now the question is, okay, but what does TAC interpret as A, B, C, D, F? Okay, how do I evaluate and assign those particular letter grades? Well, I have several examples here. There's one with a hard drive, okay? So if you are going to grade a hard drive that you buy from Fry's, okay, then you assign an F to a drive that you buy from Fry's that does not work at all, and instead it killed your motherboard and your power supply. You hear a lot of snapping sounds, you see some firework inside the case, and that's the end of not just the hard drive, of your entire computer. Okay? That's an F because it didn't work at all. A D means you install the drive, it is awfully noisy, it's vibrating like crazy, okay? In fact, your computer is vibrating more than your washer or dryer, okay? And every single drive that you install failed way before the MTBF, or the mean time between failure, okay? So based on your calculation of how you use your computer, this drive really should last, let's say, 2 years before it fails. Okay, 3 months into installing this drive, it died on you. Okay, that's a D. Okay, because yeah, it kind of functioned as a hard drive for a little bit of time, but it doesn't meet your expectation at all. It doesn't even meet the published specification of the drive. A C means you install the drive, it has the average amount of noise and vibration, and it claims that it will last about a year or two, and it lasts about a year or two. Okay, so nothing special, it meets the minimum requirements that what you expect, it's okay. What is a B? A B is when you install the drive, it is quiet with less than average vibration. And when you look at all the drives that you have installed, the average lasts longer than the MTBF. So if you install 10 drives, okay, out of the 10 drives, 8 of those last quite a bit longer, but 2 kind of failed close to the MTBF. So on the average, it is still good, but occasionally some drives do not meet the expectation. Okay? It's good, but not as good as an A drive. So an A means you install the drive, you are just taken away by how quiet and stable it is. You cannot even tell that the drive is on. And none of the drive that you install fail before the MTBF. They all exceed your expectations. So that's how that's what A, B, C, D, F means when I grade your exams. Are there any questions about my interpretation? Yep.
Well, we're going to be answering questions that are like problems with formulas that we're learning, things like that, right?
It's mostly going to be tracing, so I'll give you an algorithm, and you tell me what the algorithm is going to do.
So, in some cases, there will be more than one answer, but one might be more effective, or?
Nope. In a trace, there's only one answer.
So how we word it might be better?
It's really just about, okay, so that's a good question.
I'm trying to compare it to this.
Yep, I understand. So an A with an answer means, it's a perfect answer, okay? You have met all the requirements and all the expectations. Okay? It means, what it means is you have demonstrated that you understand the core concept that I'm trying to test. You did not make any mistakes. You did not miss anything. Okay, that's an A. By the same token, a B means that you demonstrate that you understand the core concept that I'm testing, but you have some minor mistakes. you're missing certain minor little things. Not really major. It's not going to be, you got it, okay? But you miss certain things.
Left something out.
Yeah, little mistakes, okay? Minor omissions. A C means you demonstrate that you understand the concept for the most part, okay? But there's a lot of omission and a lot of mistakes. Is that okay? So there is some quantitative thing, because what is a lot and what is minor, that's up to me to decide at the point of when I'm grading it. A D means there's no demonstration of sufficient understanding of the concept, but there's some answer that seems to have something to do with the concept that I'm testing, but there's not enough demonstration of actual understanding. And F means either no answer whatsoever, or the answer has nothing to do with the concept that I'm testing. Okay. Are there any questions? I mean, that's a good question. Any questions? Nope. Okay. And make sure that I click one of these. I understand. Assessment activities, homework assignments that account for 20% of your final grade. The first exam, which is about 1/3 through the semester, is 20%. The second exam, which is another 1/3 through the semester, so it means it's about 2/3 through the semester, is another 20%. The final exam all by itself is 40%, which means someone who is acing the final exam can pass this class with a C automatically. Turn in no homework assignment, flunk the first exam, flunk the second exam, ace the final exam, that person will still get a C out of this class, because a C starts at 37.5%, okay, and the final is 40% all by itself. Do not interpret this as a challenge. I'm not testing. I don't want anyone to say, well, if nobody has done this before, I'll be the first person. There's no need to be a hero in this case. Okay? And these are the topics that we're going to talk about and the approximate time frame to talk about these things. Okay, I usually don't really follow the time frame all too closely. Okay, but we'll get through all of these. Okay, so when you're done with all the quote-unquote quiz questions, you'll click next and make sure that all of those things are answered. Okay, so if you see one that is not saved, go back and answer that one. And then you click submit all and finish, and then click it one more time, because in an actual quiz you don't want to accidentally click that and miss certain questions. So now the rest of the class should be open. So when you go back to the top part of this class, all of these topics are now open. You can actually read the material. The first thing I want you guys to do, well, not now, because I know most of you have a cell phone and you can actually do it now, but I don't want you to do it right now. This is a really cool website. I'm going to open it in the new window here. It's called 16personalities.com. Until the very end, you don't have to disclose anything personal whatsoever, like your email address. It's only when you want to get a copy of your own assessment or your own personality profile that you need to give it your email address to get the result. Okay. Now this is a really cool test because it can test your personality. There are 16 personalities because there are 4 axes to this space, and then each axis has one end or the other end. So 2 to the power of 4 is 16, and that's why there are 16 personalities. Now, when you look up personalities, I don't have to take this test and show you, but you can look up the personalities 16, and there are many websites that talk about the profile of personalities. So these are the 16 personalities. Some personalities are suitable to certain types of occupation. So you can see that if you want to be a commander, a leader, it's ENTJ. Okay. If you want to be a composer, like a musician and stuff like that, you want to be an ISFP. And they don't have computer scientist here. The closest we get, sorry, go ahead. Tear. A teardrop.
Sad face.
A sad face. You mean here?
Oh no, I'm talking about that there's no
Oh, okay.
personality for it.
Oh, yeah, because computer science is not really that much on the map. But architect comes close, okay? INTP is one of the personalities that is really suitable for computer science people.
Is that yours?
Yeah, it was. It is. I took the test, I took multiple tests multiple times because I can never remember my actual answer to every single question. So I thought, if I, just kind of give it a little more jitter, maybe it will nudge me over to another personality type. No, it's INTP, 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 INTP. So I'm fairly sure that I am in the INTP part. So INTP, okay, so let me just kind of see if they explain what is the INTP. There are also other websites that only talk about INTP, so INTP, personality. And if you want to find out why it is suitable for computer science, here's, this is not a website per se, this is a forum. And somebody says, I know the INTPs are supposed to be great in computer science and blah, 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 and so on. So you can read, some of this stuff here. INTP, the I is introvert, okay? Introverted, N is intuitive, T is thinking, and I cannot remember what P is.
It's like perceiving or judging.
He is perceiving.
P is perceiving and not judging. Okay, thank you. So INTP is a certain combination of these traits, and it just lends itself to basically STEM field, not just computer science. Mathematicians, engineers, architects, and stuff like that. Yep.
Would you say there's a personality that's least suited for computer programming?
That's an interesting question.
Please don't say INFP. That's what I am.
I would go through the personality test, and the personality test actually gives you 6 sections as a result. If I remember correctly, one section has to do with your occupation, what occupation you can look into, or it will suggest certain occupations. And another section will talk about your strengths, and and with every strength comes a weakness, because it's really just the flip side of the same coin. Okay, so that's a good analysis. With computer science, or with any type of science or math field, I think the thinking part is important, okay? Whether you're introverted or not, I don't think that really is a big issue. It's just that introverted people have more time to think because we don't have parties to go to. Nobody gets invited. So we have more time to think. Extroverted people have other things to do, so even though they can be thinking type also as well, they can get distracted by other activities in life. So I don't know exactly whether what they say about your personality, but you can take a look, just see.
Because I already took this test.
Oh, you already did?
Yeah.
Okay. And you can actually see the list here. So this one has INTP as logician, and it will tell you famous people of this type too. So if you click go all the way to the bottom part, I think. Yeah, there we go. Famous INTPs. Bill Gates, Ellen Page, Kirsten Stewart, Albert Einstein, Rene Descartes, Blaise Pascal, Isaac Newton. So those are your usual scientist, profile. Fictional INTPs. This is fun. Neo from The Matrix. Yeah. Okay, so it's fun to do. Okay, it's fun to do. It's fun to do it, with a friend, and share and stuff like that. But it's not a bad thing to do. Okay, it's good to know about your own personality. Okay, second thing. So after personality, you want to get into the next slide. Where's my next slide? Oh, BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Okay. Because the personality test will give you some suggestions, okay? It's not by any means exhaustive or by any means authoritative. In other words, there may be an occupation not listed, that will still be suitable for your personality. So with BLS website, okay, I'm just going to go to this website here. This one focuses mostly on computer and information technology occupation. And on this website, you can now look into each and every occupation and just figure out, okay, out of these different occupations, which one, is something that you want to look into, okay? Now, you guys are just starting out here. There's lots of time for you guys to figure out what exactly that you want to do. So these are just suggestions. It's just letting you know what alternatives are out there, okay? So don't try to pigeonhole yourself into one of these things and say, I have to become blah, 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 blah. Okay, these are just suggestions, okay? Just things that you can look into, and by no means is it exhaustive, okay? There are other things that you should look into as well, so it's just an exposure, nothing more. Okay? And don't just do it by the median pay either. All right. So are there any questions about these two items, the personality test and the Bureau of Labor Statistics? Now, one thing that I do want you guys to at least, put some attention into is not so much the median pay, but when you click on each occupation, it will give you some quick facts. The one quick fact that I think is important is the job outlook. So the job outlook of this one, which is Computer and Information Research Scientists, has a 11% growth rate over 10 years, from 2014 to 2024. And that is faster than average. Okay? There are occupations that are not just faster than average, it is much faster than average. So that is kind of important because you don't want to get into a field where the employment is declining. Okay? That is typically not a good way to start your career. So I just want to point out all of these things because I think it's kind of important. All right, so moving on to the next one. This is just reading material. Even though it looks like a quiz, it's not a quiz. Okay, how many points you get out of this one does not change your final grade because it's just reading material. So if it's just reading material, why do I make it into a quiz? Because I want it to be slightly interactive so that you guys don't fall asleep when you're reading it. So we talk about what is programming. Programming seems to be pretty needless. It's a needless question because everybody knows what programming is. It's telling the computer what to do. So when I look at programming and I look at the analogy of building a house, okay? So if you think about a program or a computer system as a house or a structure or building, okay? Programming is actually what a contractor would do. Okay? So think about this. You, for whatever reason, you come to possession of a piece of land on Highway 1 and it's really scenic. But there's no structure on that property just yet. Okay? And for whatever reason, you're given an unlimited amount of money to build your dream house on that property. Okay? So just kind of imagine all this stuff. How are you going to go about doing this? Having your dream house built.
Level it out.
Hire contractors.
Hire contractors. Okay, so what are you going to tell your contractors?
You're gonna hire an architect.
Aha! You have to hire an architect first. So what is the difference between an architect versus a contractor?
Design and application.
Design. Okay, that is the main thing. Okay. So, okay, the first party that every single information system, every single program has is the client, okay? In the case of a house, that would be the occupant who is going to be living in the house. In the case of a program, is whoever is going to use that program, okay? That's the client, okay? So there's really not much to say about the client except for one thing. The client may not be very technology savvy, okay? The client may know what he or she wants, but may not be able to articulate using technology terms, using programming terms, using all those specific words. Is that okay? Okay. All right. and also the client has some kind of need, some kind of requirement, something to evaluate, options. Okay, is that making any sense? So how many people want to build a house that can accommodate a lot of guests so that you can have, a lot of people coming over? Okay, cooking outdoor. Okay, maybe a helicopter landing pad. No, I don't like that. It's too noisy. In fact, I will shoot down any helicopters within 5 miles. Don't tell the government. Or just put up big nets, connected by balloons, so nothing can fly within 5 miles. Especially drones. But we all have different preferences, right? So every client has a different requirement of a particular program, of a particular information system, and of a particular house. Okay, is that okay? But they don't know how to articulate that. So the question is, what originates from the client in the context of an information system? I'm not going to answer these questions. Select one, the actual finished product. Requirements and criteria to evaluate the finished product. Full specification in information technology and computer science terms. Okay, I'll let you guys decide what is the correct answer. Well, as it turns out, it's not time to hire the contractors yet because, as somebody said, it's best to hire the architect first. So the question is, what does an architect do in the, not so much in the matrix sense, but in a much more conventional sense? Okay, so what do architects do other than collecting the money? Design, okay? But what is the first step of an architect? So you look through the phone book, or you say, okay, Frank Lloyd Wright, I would like you to be my architect, okay? So what do you think Frank Lloyd Wright is going to do first? First thing, meet with you, greetings, and then you sit down. Understanding your vision, I like that. Okay, so that is it. Okay, so you have this, property, really scenic. You have an idea of what you want, but you don't really quite know how to draw your own dream house because you don't have the know-how to do it. So this architect will come along and ask you questions, right? What kind of question do you think the architect is going to ask? Something that I have asked already, right? Okay. What do you like? Okay. Do you like an open view to the ocean? Okay. Cool. That's good. Okay. Would you like to see the wave you're splashing onto the cliff? Yeah, that's kind of cool. I like that too. Okay. Would you like to have your, main bedroom facing to the ocean, or do you want to face the other side? Stuff like that. Okay, different people have different preferences. Okay. Do you want to have a structure above ground, or do you want to build your house into the cliff as a cave or something like that? That would be awesome, right? Okay, so you have all of these things that you can tell your architect, and your architect will come up with a drawing, right? A 3D model of some kind. Probably, superimpose that onto the actual scenic, background of the property that you have. Okay. So what is the next step? Your architect, Frank Lloyd Wright, came back and, say, okay, this is what I think is going to be your dream house. You look at that, and you can even walk inside. These days with 3D modeling, you can actually walk inside a house, a structure that has not been built, with all the lighting and everything being done correctly. So you go through the whole process, you evaluate it, and you say, yes, this is what I want. What do you do next? Contractors? Not yet.
You have to get the plans approved.
You have to have the plans approved. The architect may not even give you the plans. The architect is a vision person, but not necessarily a technical person. Okay, yep.
The engineer to make sure it's all correct.
The engineer, very good. Okay, so the next person who comes along is the engineer. Okay, so I'm showing you this picture. This is the Grand Canyon, and somebody actually built the quote-unquote a bridge, patio, whatever you want to call that, and it has a transparent bottom. So when you walk on this bridge or patio or whatever you want to call that, you actually get to see what is below you, which is the Grand Canyon. Okay, spectacular view. The architect may have the vision, But how do you make it happen? That's the job of the engineer. The engineer is not necessarily a vision guy, okay? Not necessarily knowing, oh, this is a cool design that can give you something creative. The engineer is a number, okay? Tell me how this structure needs to be, and I'll tell you whether it's possible using the material that we have, and what type of material we're going to need. Oh, it's going to be made out of steel beams, but what type of steel beams? How thick? Okay, what type of strength are we talking about? What about the foundation? What do we have to do about the foundation? Okay, so the engineer is going to go through all those calculations and tell you whether it is doable or not. Okay. And when the engineer is done, well, there's supposed to be a YouTube clip. Oh, right there. Nice. Okay. This is what happens when the engineer is not doing what he or she is supposed to be doing. I cannot tell you a famous engineer who does everything right, but I can show you an example of what is not right. Okay, so this is a suspension bridge, and I can fast forward to. Okay, it's all good. Okay, now it's okay. This is good. Get rid of the ad. Come on, go away. There we go.
I think it's wind.
Yeah.
It's wind. It is crosswind across the surface of the bridge. But what it's doing is causing oscillation. It's kind of like a reed. Okay? If anyone plays the saxophone or something like that, you know a reed, right? And the reed vibrates because of air passing through it. It's doing exactly the same thing. It's resonating, which means the strength of the vibration increases as time goes on because it's just piling energy on top of it. Okay, and it's going to crash soon because the vibration gets to a point where the structure can no longer deal with the stress. And all these people are just walking. And there's a clip, there's a little segment here where one person is just walking leisurely away from all this stuff here. You'll see, I think pretty soon. See that person who's still walking on the bridge? Later on, that person will be closer, and you can see the expression of that person. It's like, it's nothing. It's gotta be okay. Now, it's like that person, now he's in the foreground. And he's just leisurely walking. I would have run. Like this guy here, he's quickening his pace a little bit, but nonetheless, he doesn't seem to be running at all. Doesn't seem to think this is an emergency of any kind. And it breaks. It collapsed. So this is what happens when the engineer is not doing what should be done. Okay, is to do the analysis and make sure that the bridge doesn't do something like this. Can you imagine the Oakland Bridge or the Golden Gate Bridge doing this? Yep, exactly. Yep.
Do you remember in '87, the air show, Golden Gate Park, when the Golden Gate Bridge started to bow because there were so many people walking on it?
No, I didn't know about it. So that's a load analysis.
Yeah.
Yep.
They had to stop people from walking on the bridge.
In a synchronized way. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Okay, so when the engineer is all done and the architect is all done, what do we have? In the case of building a house, we have a blueprint and a plan to get everything done. Okay, so what do you think those things will specify? Sorry?
Material requirements.
Material requirements, how many of what do we need, okay? And also the placement of that material, okay? Where the beams are supposed to go, what is the depth of the foundation, stuff like that, okay? The bolts, the outlets, okay? Support beams, the roof, and stuff like that. Does it tell you how to build a house? It tells you what the house looks like, the properties of the house, the specification of the house, but it doesn't give you any instruction to actually get it built. Okay. So when the specification is all done, then finally we are ready to hire the contractors. So we are now back to the contractors. So the contractors are the people who actually put things together based on the specifications that is the result of both the architect and the engineer. So are we doing okay so far with the analogy? Okay. How many people think that, oh, well, that means being a contractor is going to be so boring because everything is already determined? What do you think? Why is it not boring?
Come across more new problems.
Because the specifications never say anything about how to put things together, right? Even when you're putting a house, a structure, a dog house together, okay, sometimes you encounter problems, right? Okay, we have all the parts, we know exactly what the finished product should look like, but how do we put it together in the first place? How many people read those manuals or steps when you put together some DIY stuff? And how many people usually do not refer back to it until you have spare parts left? Okay, well that explains the challenges of putting something together. Even though you have all the parts, you know exactly what it is supposed to look like in the end, but if you don't have the instructions to put it together, it is still a challenge. And that's the challenge of the contractors, because they are the ones who have to look at the blueprint and say that this is what the finished product should be like, okay, the specifications. Now, how do we make it happen? What is the order of putting things together? And there are challenges in that. Those are the challenges of a developer, a programmer, a coder, okay? Those are all the common names of that particular occupation. Okay, so moving on. So the question is, are you a programmer? Or do you have the personality traits? One is INTP. It's probably not the only type, okay? I cannot imagine that you have to be an INTP to be a successful programmer. But there are also aptitude tests, okay? This is based on personality. This is actually more or less an IQ test. So this is IBM's programmer aptitude test. And it has been around for a long time because it is really effective. So for those of you who want to do this, you can actually go ahead and download the PDF, which is a scan of all the actual questions. So there are instructions for each part, and then there are the actual questions. I'll just zoom in, and we'll do a few of these. Okay. All right. So this is one of those questions. It's basically asking you find the rule in each series and indicate a choice which completes the series. So this one is fairly easy. 19, 23, 27, 31, 35, 39. What is the next number? 43, because we are just adding 4 for each number. Okay, so it gets a little bit tricky later on. Okay, so when you look at this one, it's 4, 11, 16, 19, 26, 31, and what is the next one? It's 36. What? Hold on. No. I stand corrected. It's not 36.
34.
Sorry?
Oh, 34.
Why do you think it's 34? Okay, good job. You guys are noticing the pattern. So the aptitude test is really a long quiz, with all kinds of stuff like that. Now, do you have to be a native speaker of English to understand these questions? No. Do you have to understand any actual language to solve these problems? You just have to know numbers, right? So it's not really testing knowledge, it's testing whether you can see patterns. And what IBM found out over these years is this is actually a very good aptitude test. Now, aptitude is different from competence, okay? Because competence has a lot to do with experience, okay? If you have been a programmer for 20 years, okay, you can solve problems that somebody cannot solve, if that person is just like 2 years into the career. Okay, because a lot of stuff is based on experience. This has nothing to do with experience. This only has to do with, do you notice patterns? Okay, can you look at these numbers and quickly figure out what is the relationship between these numbers?
Time test. Was this a time to test?
I don't know whether it is time when IBM administrates, but I'm pretty sure time is a factor as well. Okay, but some people cannot solve these problems regardless of how much time they have. So it's a good test. If you want to kind of self-test, this is a something that you can try. Okay, to see if you enjoy the test. If you enjoy the test, you probably is gifted to become a programmer. Okay, if you take this test, halfway through the test, your monitor is broken and it's outside of the house, you may not be suitable as a programmer. Yes.
That reminds me of Sudoku. That reminds me of Sudoku.
Well, Sudoku is one of those things, you have to, but Sudoku is has more depth to it. This is a lot more, has to do with quantities, just the massive amount of pattern recognition that you have to do. Okay. All right, moving on. We're almost done with the first quiz, and we're almost out of time too. Okay, but there are people in this class, I just did a little poll. There are people in this class who are not going to be computer science people. They're going to be going to math, engineering, or other types of technology work. Okay? So the question is, why am I in this class? What do you think? Okay, go ahead.
Computers are an integral part of our life, and you have to be able to understand how to speak with them to do anything in a science-related career field.
Okay, but does it particularly pertain to STEM occupations?
Yes.
And that's because computers is an integral tool in a lot of those occupations. It's not really just something for entertainment purposes. You can learn it or you don't have to learn it. You have to learn it because your tools are computer-based. But I'm going to be a mathematician. I'm going to be working on math. Why would I need a computer for that? I just need a piece of paper and a pencil. That's all I need. Right? What do you think mathematicians end up doing usually? Applied math. Well, it's not just applied math. I can go back and talk about pure math, but for people who study applied math in college, what do they usually end up doing?
I know most modern encryptions are written using brain groups from math.
There are those mathematicians. Wall Street actually hire a significant amount of math majors. What do you think those people do?
Create algorithms to play software.
Algorithms and
What about like statistics, like probability of certain things happening?
modeling. Okay,
Stuff like
they
that.
want to do modeling because they want to be able to figure out what the trends are leading. Right? What is going to happen next month? What's going to happen next year? Okay, and that takes mathematicians. Okay, the mathematicians will be there to figure out the model. Okay, the differential equations and whatnot. Are they the ones who are going to punch in all the numbers in the calculator to find out, in 10 years the stock market is going to soar because of all of these indicators? No, we don't want to do any calculations by hand. What is going to do the calculations? Computers. Okay, not necessarily a spreadsheet program because it's going to be more complicated, but that's me, sorry. But it will be computers, okay? So that's why it is important to go into programming, or at least understand algorithms and computer programming, because it is a very integral tool to every single field in STEM. Are there any questions about this? No? Okay. So we are kind of running out of time, but I do want to show you, what is next. So next week, okay, I'm not going to cancel this class. I'm canceling the class before this one, but I'm not going to cancel this one because I think I can make it back. So there's one more reading material here. It's called Algorithms and Problem Solving. which will explain what is an algorithm and what is problem solving, why we are using pseudocode in this class instead of actual code. There are 2 entries in Wikipedia that you can look into. I am not going to assign the homework here, which is assignment in LibreOffice. So I'm not assigning it just yet. So there's nothing to turn in, but I want you guys to read ahead of me. Okay? So I want you to read ahead of me and finish these 2 items. So operators, values, and expressions, as well as variables and assignment. Okay? Because there will be 5 days between now and the next class. So finish those 2, and then on next Monday, we'll start on those topics. Okay? All right, have a nice weekend. It just sounds weird to say that on a Wednesday, but
You talking about bridges reminded me of